Welcome to the Relationship Recovery Podcast, hosted by Jessica Knight, a certified life coach who specializes in narcissistic and emotional abuse. This podcast is intended to help you identify manipulative and abusive behavior, set boundaries with yourself and others, and heal the relationship with yourself so you can learn to love in a healthy way.
Hello, thank you for being here today. I created a resource a while back that has been a huge help in my life, and it's a PDF of canned responses. I created this when I was struggling to deal with an ex-partner, mostly in relationship to my kid, and I was trying to think about how can I respond non-emotionally and differently, because whatever I was doing wasn't working. We were leading to conflict or leading to these long, drawn-out conversations and emails that were just not helpful and not focused on the issue. So in doing this, I learned a lot, but I also learned how to hold boundaries within myself. I started to be able to look at how I show up, how I get activated, how I feel like it's impossible sometimes, and it helped me keep boundaries and also preserve access to me. And so today I want to talk through the resource that I created for all of you on canned responses for toxic relationships and the purpose of them. Because the purpose of having canned responses is to help you with boundaries. And one of the first steps in healing from emotional abuse is setting boundaries. Boundaries allow you to draw a line with what you will and will not tolerate. And sometimes this line is simply within yourself. Other times it is with your partner. But when you are in an abusive relationship, setting boundaries can feel almost impossible. You'll find yourself in endless text threads and emails with no way out, having the same conversation again and again, explaining the same things over and over again, and getting absolutely nowhere. And often this is because these are just words. Words that work with a healthy person, someone who cares about you and loves you and doesn't want to hurt you. But you don't do anything to stop the harm. Because an abusive or a toxic partner is not a healthy person. And if they respected you, you wouldn't be in an abusive relationship. I talked about this in depth on a podcast I did a few weeks ago on boundaries. And I recommend that you listen to that because I talk through how to set a boundary that will work. But the basic premise is this. If you want to set an effective boundary, you will need to set a boundary that stops the harm. If you simply say, don't talk to me that way, without removing yourself from the room, you are not removing yourself from the harm. Your statements have to start to carry weight to yourself and to the other person. Often, many people will tell me that they feel guilty when setting boundaries. This is likely because they haven't done it before, but they probably feel like now they're the abusive one. They're shutting them out. They're shutting down their feelings. And that's where canned responses come in. It helped me in reoccurring situations. And I've watched it help clients respond unemotionally to toxic communication patterns. Because the overall goal is to limit the back and forth engagement that the narcissist or the abuser craves. I know for myself, I used to get extremely anxious in challenging situations, and I'd either shut down or lose my cool. But since using the technique of canned responses, I'm able to remain calm even when I'm under attack. And here's how they work in situations. I'm just going to talk through a few examples. If my personal life was brought into an email chain that was meant to be about a logistic, I used a canned response. Usually it sounded something like, the additional facts that you're emailing about are not in line with the topic at hand. Can you please respond to the question that was asked? And I would repeat the question. If a phone call escalated to being yelled at, I would say, if you continue to yell at me, I'm going to hang up the phone. And then if I continue to get yelled at, I would hang up the phone, and that would be that. There would be no contact for the rest of the day. A common thing that happens is an abuser will tell you what you think about something without your opinion, without your perspective. And so when that would happen, instead of getting defensive and trying to explain what I thought and what I felt, I would say, my truth is different from your perspective. Do you want to hear my perspective? And not get into the long, drawn-out explanation that I typically would be in. I offer a PDF of canned responses which can be used, but I always recommend, and I usually work with clients on this, to define what canned responses work for them in their specific situations. This is really important because the rules are different if there are kids involved. So you do need to make sure that the responses align with your situations. And while this can be difficult, and you will feel feelings about doing this, it really is essential if you want to start on the road to healing. And so I want to end with one of my favorite quotes. This is from Lundy Bancroft and his book, Inside the Mind of Angry and Controlling Men. The quote goes like this: "The people who get upset about you setting boundaries are the ones who are benefiting from you having none." You can receive a free copy of the PDF on canned responses that I recommend by going to jessicaknightcoaching.com/communication. You also can go to my Instagram at Jessica Knight Coaching, and there's a link in bio for the free resource. If you do use them, I really invite you to let me know what works and what doesn't, because it does help me to recreate them, and it also helps me figure out how I can help others. But within that resource, you'll get 17 canned responses to diminish conflict, 3 steps for communicating with an emotionally abusive partner, and the next steps to feel empowered. So I hope that this was helpful. And as always, if you need some support, you could always reach out to me at jessicaknightcoaching.com or through Instagram at Jessica Knight Coaching. Thank you.